to our transits. Gene Key. I almost didn't make it today, folks. I'm still in slight recovery over the summit. I still have a few things that I want to do so that we can close out the summit and just give it love and blessings, right? And on to the next one, which is for next year, right? But it is an important time and it is an important key for me. So I thought I'm going to go ahead and maintain the streak. Okay. So we're talking about Gate and Gene Key 20. And this is the full moon in Gemini. And in the gate for quantum human design with Karen Curry Parker, that is patience. In the Gene Key, it is the shadow of superficiality, the gift of self assurance, and the city of presence. So, what's going on, I think, in the energies right now is when to go, when to start, when to stop, what's important, what to count, what not to count. And actually, only because of the influences and the people that I key into, have I really understood that this time is tricky. It's a tricky time. This isn't a time about um, anything anything that you can put your finger on. So all those end products, end goals, all of those things that we're normally using as the metrics of our success and how we are doing and how far we've gotten and how far we have to go. They're a little ethereal right now. We don't get to know and choose. So let me talk a little bit about how I got to that. So Karen Curry Parker talks about the Gate 22 being about patience, right? And what is patience? She calls it mastering waiting, right? Which, if anybody knows anything about human design, that I think is the most frustrating part of human design, which is anybody who has frustration in their what do they call it? Uh, conditioned response. I forget. They have their own word for it. But as a conditioned response, then you are also dealing with having to respond to things. So waiting for things to respond to, making sure that you are responding to the environment and the needs that are happening. That way, you're not I think they consider it like pretty much any interpretation that you're bringing in that case to be something that is influenced by perception and therefore something outside of self, outside of a full alignment. Well, again, I don't. If human design was the name of my channel, you would know that that's what I hold as priority, but I don't because I think the idea of this response thing is tricky. It's tricky because what are we waiting for? Who are we responding to and why? Right? Like it's not as simple as they make it sound. So what is the importance of mastering waiting? And the reference I'm going to make here is from Bami Spirit. Bami, I think that is, but yeah, Bami Spirit is the YouTube channel. And I've been watching her for years upon years upon years. And she is talking about the full moon in Gemini as this time not to really be making choices based on what you think is the right thing, right? And she's so in touch and so intuitive, and she brings this out over the course of her own explorations of the astrology and her intuition and reading cards. And so it's always beautiful to watch her unfold the magic of her understanding. So I highly recommend her. But it really did connect with what I wasn't quite gelling with in the description for the quantum human design, which is that essentially if we are assuming something already, that that it's not, it may not be right. And it's because we don't have all the details yet, right? And so, yeah, Evan Turtle at Bami really helped me put that together, put those pieces together of let's, what does it look like to master waiting? And this is a sense of surrender. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more going into the gene key description, but that sense of surrender to what is, and not jumping ahead to conclusions when we don't have all the information, and at the same time responding and being in tune with the now and our now selves and our now energy, so that we are trusting our intuition as far as what to think about in our interests, what to keep working on, and what to hold up to honor, right? So the tricky part is to not succumb to pressure to do otherwise. In other words, to not succumb to pressure to define something before it's ready, to name the goal as the ultimate prize, right? It actually goes back to some of the keys that have been coming up over the year. We've gotten a lot of keys as far as time and timing, is something Karen brings up. And one of those sense of time and timing is that you are not, that you are not acting out of an idea that's an old idea of who you are and why you're here, right? Because so much of that has changed over this course of this year. And so coming into this new understanding also means renaming indicators of what used to be indicators of doing certain actions, and not creating more busy work, which is essentially what we'll do if we're succumbing to the pressure to do something to get it done, or the frustration of waiting and being done with waiting and just wanting to make something happen, or of the pressure being so bad, but not having all the answers, just deciding to quit on the whole idea, right? And then it can it can start to feel like that. That's why people start giving up on visions, and of course there's great reasons to do maybe some interim work while things are falling into place and you're getting all your details right. So but if you're just quitting because you're tired of not knowing the ultimate answer, that can slow down. Well, I guess you can't really do anything wrong. So there's not that, but essentially the sense of fulfilling or being on purpose. And so being careful that we're not making those decisions based on some externalized goal, other people's versions of success, and really just thinking you already know the answer when we're still asking questions. And we still need to be asking questions about ourselves more deeply, and about what's true for us and what is coming up for us. So that, I think, is the important thing to pay attention to, not jumping the gun when it comes to moving into what's next. Karen Curry Parker describes this as when we get impatient, we jump the gun out of a sense of urgency, which is essentially rooted in fear of not accomplishing, not being important, not fulfilling the ultimate goals, not fully. I think of it for me like that fear is not fully becoming the full expression of who I'm meant to be on the planet, right? So worrying about those things and acting out of that worry and fear causes a lot of things. Like she talks about hemorrhaging resources. This reminds me so much of people who are buying courses in an effort for it to be the answer for their idea of what should be the success, right? Again, if we're using somebody else's metrics on what that is, then we can often be disappointed. And then, then again, we're either hemorrhaging time or money or both. And so, yeah, so what are like having your own in, intuitive self exploration moments on what is our resource, what do we need to be resourced by, what do we want to master. Those things are really inside of us, and it's just a matter of allowing ourselves to express it. um, what's interesting is that in the key and the shadow, we're really talking about how much are we able to do that, and how much we are able to do that is based on how much of the quantity of our how much of our real selves is being shown in our beingness and how we're being and acting on the planet, right? And the trick here is that if we're living in fear, if we're just trying to figure things out and doing things according to what we've already figured out, it can look like living in busyness, but never feeling accomplished, never feeling purposeful, never getting anywhere. And that's not by, again, outside metrics about what you want to experience and what is fulfilling to you to experience, right? So there is that. And what it that shadow is causing, a superficiality. So the shadow is superficiality. The gift is self-assurance, and that city, right, is what is the city? Presence, right? Yeah. So that not speaking a lot to this thing. So in the shadow, what that can do is put us on the sidelines of what our true life is, not just life in general for general humanity, but what life is to us. What's life giving? What are we here to live, right? Puts us on the fringe of that experience, and a desire for um, the outward appearance of getting things done. That's what busyness is, right? To stay busy. I always, again, this has come up over the course of the last few months, of this idea of I'm so busy and I need to get all this stuff done. Uh, Thinking that if you're busy and you go out and try to get all those tasks done, that when you're finished with the task, you'll be less busy. But what I know is that anything you put your hand to, in the feeling of and the energy of, it creates more of that. So if you're doing things and trying to finish things, thinking that it's going to keep you from being busy, then you're really just creating more busyness, more things to get done. And so it's important that we are holding on to what we actually want, which is that sense of fulfillment, that sense of being and acting in purpose, being purposeful, and not necessarily doing less or more. You know, that's all subjective. But are we being purposeful within our actions, and in that are we bringing what we are meant to live, that liveliness? So if we're doing something that we don't feel like we're doing it to stop being busy, but that we're doing it in order to feel more life, right? So how much more life can I experience if I show up and do this video today, right? And then that becomes a lot more centered into our alignment of what we're here to experience in our energy and our spirit and ourselves. And it's much more satisfying, and it's much less frustrating. So that's what we're looking to. So a lot of the practices, again, as of our modern age, is to think, to make sure you have all your goals and all your tasks, and to make them smart, and to make them specific, and to da 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 da, right? And Richard Rudd reminds us in this shadow that it's actually that a fear that we feel like we need to be in so much control of our lives, and that's in this way, and that when we are thinking, in essence, is taking us out of our present moment. So when we lived in nature and when we lived in life of this is to eat, this is to sleep, this is to have sex and babies, right? Like then we had we're much more in tuned to the flow of life and what wants to be lived through us. And then taking us out of natural environments, making us have to respond to things that are superficial, like money and all this kind of thing, creates a superficial mind. So that shadow of superficiality, right? And that mind not being who we are spirit, we are consciousness, right? So the mind, to think of that as a separation, right? So everybody uses these words a little bit differently, so that's I'm trying to define them as we go. But yeah, mind is more as a separation of that thinking self from the knowing self, that of a higher consciousness. Okay. And when we do that and we live in that mind of separation, that we don't feel at one with life, with the energy of life, of beingness. um, and so yeah, it's highly frustrating. So he describes that living into the gift of self-assurance as profound surrender. Richard Rudd, who is the writer of Gene Keys. So, yeah, profound surrender. So I sat with that for a little bit. This is actually my culture sphere and the Gene Key hologenetic profile. And what is important about that is that essentially it's how I create space. It's how I sit, that people experience in my spaces, is a sense of a self assurance. What is that sense, that surrender sensed, is this deep restfulness that just becomes knowingness by full presence, which is the city, right? So the city is presence. So if you think about just the ultimate presence, is just there can be nothing wrong because all there is in that moment, right? And so yeah, so it's this sense of self-assurance just because of you're in the totality of now, right? So that's even what I'm inviting people to experience in my work when we're sitting down and we're doing the Omans method. It's about having this experience of life, of beingness, of self-assurance, of knowing yourself so clearly and fully and viscerally, the experience of living in a body, right? That you can't not trust yourself. That's the ultimate goal of the work. Yeah. And so there are things that I think is important to focus on with this energy for this moon is that surrender. What is surrender to you? Does it mean giving up? Does it really close to the idea of quitting? To me, the difference, quitting is basically out of frustration and fear. It's like, well, I'm never going to get there. I'm frustrated, or fear that you will never get there. So why try? Why waste time? Why waste energy, right? That is a totally different feeling than surrender, of just being okay. What is, and I'm okay with what is, and what will be, because it'll be more of is, right? So complete surrender. I am not an expert in this, but I have learned. I have learned through the experience that I'm inviting others to, that it can be had. It's something that was very elusive in the beginning, but as I develop my method, as I practice, as I teach, it has become something that is familiar to me. And I'm still kind of boggled by that. Next, so the experience of intuition. What is intuition to you? So this has come up over the course of this week as well for me, which is this idea that you have already had intuitive moments. You've already trusted intuition. let's it might be a great time. It is a great time, if you ask me, that you start keeping track of your intuitive hits, understandings, ideas, decisions, right? That you're making essentially just because you feel like it's right. Okay. And if you start writing them down and start looking back on them from later perspectives, looking back and saying, oh, wow, yeah, I did make that decision and I did feel this way about it and I had this result. And, actually, it may not be a bad idea to the next time I feel this way that I make this decision, right? It's to keep track of the experience of your own intuition so you can trust yourself and your intuitive hits. The other thing I think is important to walk away with is a sense of meditative mind. So instead of mind that is always thinking and trying to, if you're anything like me, trying to figure things out and find the perfect way or make the magic formula potion that's going to fix everything. Again, if you're anything like me, that we move into a sense of holding things lightly. That doesn't mean that you can't, like, even in meditation, it means 1,000 different things, and anything can be meditation. It's what we learn when you start to experience it a little bit more. But this the idea is holding ideas and things lightly, holding even our beliefs and our ideals and our morals and all of it really lightly, because we need grace right now. We need a lot of grace. If we gave each other much more grace, then we would have a lot more lives saved. um, and so we can only start within, we can only start with us, and then the more that we do that work, the more we can change things for others in a real way, not just in a perpetuation of just, the the destroying cycles that we hate to witness, right? So how when we hold it a little bit lighter, then we allow the lightness, the light, to be an influence on what is being presented in our reality. So for me, this was really something that I learned out of a practice of music, of creativity, of embarking on anything in that line. In order for me to do any of it, I really have to give myself a lot of space and grace. And I think of it as holding things lightly, ideas and what is going to be when it's finished, all those things. Our creative work really helps us feel into and start to honor and surrender to the process. So that's what I wanted to bring that other idea back to, is the process. Like, I'm always going to talk about process because it's my thing. But one of the things that has come up for me, I think that was in yeah, October. It was October. I don't know, maybe late September. Anyways, I heard this lady say, and about health, actually, about choosing foods and all this kind of thing. Whenever we're deciding to make a change in our health and our practices, that we have to commit not to the weight loss or the, I mean, even those weird, again, smart goals that we set up. I think of it, I have words such as like vibrant health and movement and conscious movement and all of these things that sound beautiful, but they're all really, um, unless I bring them into that action words, they're results, right? Vibrant health is a result of making healthy choices, right? And so, what we actually have to commit to is not that end result, it's the process that we're choosing to experience the result. So, what do we have to commit to? The experience you're willing to continue to have until there is a result, until there isn't a result, until what is the process we're committing to, not the result. Because if the If the result doesn't come from this process, does that mean you no longer want to be healthy? Or does it mean that you're just going to keep living a process to find out what health is to you and what gives you that experience of health? So the process you're committing to is finding out what health is for you, right? It's so that's how we want to think of those things. Okay, so that's a lot of explanation. I don't mean to go that deeply. Um, the point is to get to the content piece for you guys. How are you sharing your work, your vision, your service, your passion with the world in this next 2 weeks? Well, as a content thing, I think it would be great to let people know what kind of process they're committing to. Why is that important? I think not necessarily because you need to talk to people about your tools, right? But there is a mindset that it'll take for people to buy in to whatever the process looks like for the outcome that they are desiring, right? And so giving them a little sneak peek behind the curtain, so to speak, is a great way to share content this week. And maybe even giving props for whatever wherewithal, whatever mindset it takes to do so. Like, so for a lot of people that are talking about working out and going to the gym, they have mantras. Is it suitable for everybody? Maybe not, but but they do. They have mantras like no pain, no gain, right? We had this wonderful, amazing person who has a much more holistic perspective on body work, but still going to the gym was this is just a body. In other words, they can choose what to do with their body, and the body just has to follow what they have chosen, what their spirit has chosen, right? So it's that kind of concept. What is the mindset that people um, are going to be committing to when they walk in with your content, right? What is the busy work that has nothing to do with progress that they're looking for? So this is the second one. I'm giving y'all three here. What does that busy work look like? For me, a lot of people are doing like, speaking courses of like what was a powerful speaking thing. They're doing like Toastmasters and just doing a ton of speeches. That's great, I think, for experience with audience and all that kind of thing. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Anything done over time is going to improve in some regard. You're going to improve. But what I find a waste of time for most of the people that are needing the work that I do is that they are working on the rudiments when they are brilliant. They already have the right words. They already, they are maybe not the right words for their clients, but they have great words and they're smart, right? Um, and so it's really way more about them connecting to themselves, being able to trust the energy that they're getting, the surges that they're getting because of their empathy with themselves and the crowd. And so being able to discern and to curate energy is really what they need. They don't need to be worried about like if they're going to find the right with their words. They, if they apply themselves, they will. That's just part of their intelligence. But what they really need is time with their own energy to start exploring how it acts in collaboration and in group, um, with authority as a speaker, as a leader, right? So what that feels like, how they experience it, and how do they discern and react in that moment is what's important to them. What does jumping the gun look like? So that's the third one. What does jumping the gun look like for your clients? Right? So again, I've already mentioned this one for my clients are like the best success formula. And as long as they can prove it and they have somebody that has like looks even slightly like them, they'll usually be like, okay, I'll buy into that. I'm in for the success. I want the result. And I can, I know if I apply myself, I can do anything. but they have jumped the gun on what does success really look like for them, what is really the priority for their business, what is really going to make the difference to their satisfaction and the life that they are living and the gifts that they are sharing with others. What's truly making that difference? So they usually need to do some more explorative work on that, and so that they aren't wasting time and money on mentors that aren't for them. And maybe they will be at a further point when they have a better understanding, but even if they pick the right person at this time, they don't have the right perspectives to make the right choices with the material that they get, even if they do all the work. So it's one of those, what is that for your clients things. Okay, so that's it for today. I feel like I've been talking forever. But I'm probably just tired. But yeah, so that's it for today. If you are interested in finding your own gene key chart, your hologenetic profile, click the link below. I am scheduling and finding people to for my studio in this coming year. So once I have my a full studio, I stop taking people for the year essentially. And but this is the time. So if you want to connect to find out if you can be part of my one-on-one studio, doing the work of a vocal creatrix and a vocal alchemist, please go ahead and schedule something with me at my link. And I will see all of you folks next time. Ta ta for now. Thank you so much for coming by. I appreciate you being here. And if I don't see you in chat on YouTube, then I'd love to see you at one of my events. Check my links in the comments.